Are you your own worst critic? I'm Dr. Jacqueline Plumet, and I found that most women and many men live with a litany of self-criticism. They say mean things to themselves like, "You look fat. How could you be so stupid? You really blew it." Nobody wants to hear what you have to say. Don't even try, it will never work. That's what I have begun to call the bitch in your head. Some people hear the bitch in their head and they think it's motivating, making them work harder or smarter. Other people hear it and think it's protecting them from being arrogant or being disappointed. But most people just have this barrage of self-criticism that goes on in the background, wearing down their self-esteem, limiting their aspirations and potential, and they hardly even know it's there. Like most psychologists who work with self-critical patients, I found that the techniques and tools we have, the traditional psychotherapy techniques, really don't do much. They're not very effective in helping people who are very self-critical. And I was looking for something, a way of helping. I was working with a lawyer one day who was very self-critical. And as usual, she began to go into a little barrage of self-criticism. She was mad at herself that day because she hadn't got an MBA and was working in Wall Street where she thought she'd be making much more money. But she was a lawyer, one of the few lawyers I've worked with who actually really liked being a lawyer. So I needed something dramatic to show her how mean she was being to herself. I looked her in the eye and I said, "Boy, are you a bitch." She pulled back as if I'd struck her until I said, "To yourself." After that, we had one of our most productive sessions ever. My next patient was a woman whose husband had left her, and she felt much too shy and insecure to start dating again until she saved up for breast implants. Once again, I used my bitch line, and it worked so well, and I added, "Would you ever say to your daughter that she shouldn't start dating until she had a D cup?" That by labeling and personifying that mean voice in her head as the bitch, she could hear it, she could cope with it, and it broke through her resistance. I didn't become a one-trick pony calling everybody a bitch, and it's certainly a word I never use in my personal life. But I did start noticing that in the next year, almost all my patients were being bitchy to themselves in one way or another. So I started working on a book, and I decided to try it out on people outside of my office, because the bitch in my head was saying, "Oh, this is really no big deal." But every woman I spoke to responded. When I told the mayor of a small town that I was working on a book called The Bitch in Your Head, she looked shocked. Her eyes opened, and then she said, I thought I'd offended her with the bitch word, but instead she said, "Every morning, it starts every morning. I can't even get out of bed without realizing and thinking about all the mistakes I made the next day." And I talked to a woman who had a long and successful consulting career, and she told me, much to my surprise, she said to herself, "Every time I get a new consulting job, I say, 'Can you really do this? Who do you think you are?'" A friend of mine who's an executive said that she realizes she could spend hours and days dwelling on something she did, even though it really wasn't very significant. And the counseling department at Caltech reports that their smartest female students often feel like imposters, feeling that they've faked their way into school and making people think they were smart. Now, if you're a man listening to this, you might not be getting it, but probably every woman does. There are very interesting gender differences in self-criticism, especially the way men and women look in mirrors. The research shows that even beautiful women, when they look in a mirror, will focus in on the things they don't like. They'll say, "Look at those crow's feet," or, "My hips are too big." Whereas men For example, even a guy with a big beer belly will probably look in the mirror and look at what he does like. He'll say, oh, my eyes still sparkle, or I can still pop an arm muscle. And mistakes. Women blame themselves for mistakes. The research shows that men tend to blame the situation or someone else. And how many men do you know who say, I'm a terrible parent. I feel so guilty that I spend so much time at the office or on the golf course instead of being with the kid. But no matter whether you're a man or a woman, you were probably spending too much time with self-criticism, and it has to stop. The rule of thumb is, if you're saying things to yourself that you would never say to your child or your friend, you're being a bitch to yourself. There's a bitch in your head, and it has to stop. Last month, Bucknell University called me and said that they were awarding me their Service to Humanity Award. And the bitch in my head said, and I may have even blurted out, you must have the wrong person. I think this is the wrong number you're calling. But they said no, it was true. I was getting the award. And I've been thinking about that. And I've been thinking about how many women are so self-critical and how they put themselves down. And I didn't think I deserved the award. I was saying to myself, you're no Mother Teresa. But I think maybe if my book helps women become less self-critical and less mean to themselves, if it helps them reach their potential, not limit their aspirations, then that will be a service to humanity, even though I will never be Mother Teresa.